With Hammond Robotics, you've seen the latest advances in military personnel hardware. But the future in Titan tech is closer than you think.
Yo, what's happening, everybody? Wyatt Hurts here with, well, you can see it, some Titanfall beta gameplay, multiplayer gameplay. Now, I did spend the better part of the weekend playing this game, getting involved in this beta, and had a lot of fun doing it. You know, and coming out the other side, I highly recommend picking this up, checking out this title when it releases. You're going to have a good time in here if you like fast-paced action and just kind of a lot of running and gunning. And this game does cater to that really nicely. But for you guys that like to post up, maybe find a nice, you like to roast some weenies on the campfire. Well, there's plenty of spots on these maps that you can grab a sniper rifle or a carbine with an AOG scope on there, AOG scope, and and you can post up and camp and rain down some death. And I kind of do that here to start things off. You know, I'm right here at about the heart of the map here, and I have the high ground. There's a couple of interesting traffic lanes. There's the window over here that I just shot at. There's a lot of like pipes down below me to my, well, you saw me shooting down in them at my 9 o'clock right now, and below me, you know. So there are some heavy-duty traffic lanes early on. It's good to gain this high ground, or at least to have a presence out here. Because you have great lines of sight, and there's going to be a lot of guys that you can put down. There's a lot of kills that you can bring in. Now, you're not only fighting human opponents out here, and let's run down the different types of enemies that you're going to encounter in the multiplayer battles. Obviously, you do have a human presence. It's 6 on 6. You know, that seems a little small by today's standards for a multiplayer match of this kind of the size. The maps are massive, though, and I think the reasoning behind that was simply that everybody, all the human players, or pilots as they're called in the game, all the human players have the potential to call in a Titan. And hypothetically, they could all have a Titan in there on the battlefield at the exact same time. Now, that would be 12 Titans on the battlefield, and I think the maps probably can sustain that, but I don't think they could sustain many more Titans than that at once, you know. So, what the developers decided to do was bring in, you know, put in these filler characters, these NPCs that are known as minions, and they're broken into 2 different types. We're looking at, you can see there are grunts, which are humans. That's a grunt right there. And specters, which are these kind of robotic creatures, you know, these robotic enemies that you can put down. And they're pretty easy to put down. They'll show up in squads. They arrive in these drop pods. And when the herd has been thinned out sufficiently, I think a new wave comes in near an enemy-controlled area, you know. And, I mean, you'll get yourself right into the mix of things with them. You can be surrounded by 5 or 6, 4, 5 or 6, and still come out on top most of the time, you know. The thing you have to watch out for when you get into the mix with those grunts, or those minions in particular, is simply you have to watch out for a pilot, a human character, hidden away within the mix, you know, because if you don't prioritize him, he's going to put you down really quickly. So that's, you certainly have to watch out for that. Anyway, you can see I've now hopped into the Titan. We only had one Titan build available to us. You know, that we had several weapons that we could modifications that we could make to it. But there was one build, the Atlas chassis. And I think there are, you know, I know there's 2 more confirmed. I don't know if there's any more. The other 2 that I know of are the Ogre and the Strider. And I think they kind of speak for themselves. Whereas the Atlas, I think, is probably a well-rounded chassis. You know, the Ogre focuses more on armor, on defensive, you know, or big weapons. I'm not really sure, but I would imagine it's more of an armored. Look at that. That was beautiful. You know, I took out one. That was a double kill on pilots too, because I took one guy out with the 40 millimeter. You know, running to safety, trying to get away from my raft, and then pulled a quick turn and punched the. Well, you can't even say I punched him in the face. I punched him in his person and made him explode with my greatness. Yes. Anyway, what was I talking about? Okay, the Atlas, the Ogre. The Ogre, I think, is more, the chassis is more focused on armor, you know. And the last one that I know of is the Strider, which is much more focused on speed. So, those are the chassis. We only had the one available, though, the Atlas. I don't know if there are any more in the game. And as far as weapons went, there didn't seem to be a big lineup. You know, the weapons locker was seemed a little light. I don't know if there are more weapons to come, but we kind of had a standard carbine rifle. We had a standard SMG. We had a standard shotgun, a standard sniper rifle. I did see an LMG available, but it was only available through burn cards, you know, which are these cards that you get at the end of matches that you can then use for a single life in a new game. So the LMG was available as a burn card. You know, it would replace your primary weapon. So there's certainly an LMG in the game. I don't know if it's simply used as a burn card or not. The last little thing I noticed was this thing called a smart pistol. I will get some smart pistol footage up here this week, hopefully. And I was a little hesitant to use this gun. I didn't know if I was going to like it. You know, it's this smart targeting system on it. It's like almost like an auto aim. You know. But it's a little trickier to use than I initially thought it was going to be, and it's not quite as overpowered as I initially guessed it was going to be. You know? So it seems pretty nicely balanced. It has its pros and cons. You know, you got to use it. You got to use it properly. The smart pistol, of course, is fantastic for just decimating the minions in the game. You know, the NPCs, the non-playable characters. And that was a beautiful entry into the building. And I just kind of go running through here like a bloody tornado at this point. And I'm rocking out this carbine, having a great run. This was probably my best match to date, you know. I've had a few good ones, or a few really great ones. I've had a couple handfuls of good ones, some okay ones. I'm going to keep a steady flow of footage coming out, you know, probably once every couple of days until, hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for, until the game releases in March. You know, March 11th is when I think it hits, or when I think it falls, you know. This big titan of a title coming down to a store near you. Yes. Anyway, another kick to the face. A judo chop. Anyway, let's move on. Now, is there anything else I should run down? You know, the carbine, probably the most well-balanced gun. You know, especially once you get the attachments. I mean, I did say that it's kind of the standard carbine, standard blah blah blah, the standard SMG shotgun, etc., etc. But you know, you unlock new modifications by completing challenges in game. Now, with this Titan here in particular, this was the Titan I really focused on. You know, like I said, the Atlas chassis was really all we had available, but there were different weapons. There's like a chain gun. Right now, I'm using that 40mm cannon. I think there's also a quad rocket launcher. Now, I focused really heavily on using this 40mm because I noticed that by completing a challenge, I was able. You know, the 40mm, it started out as just a single fire cannon. You know, so the damage it could inflict was somewhat minimal. It was much more. The battles, Titan on Titan battles with that single shot 40mm, were much longer. Now because I was able to put down 15 Titans with the 40mm cannon, I was able to unlock the triple burst fire for the thing, and it just, you know, it will pick apart an enemy Titan's armor really quickly with that attachment. And of course, you do have this kind of offhand weapon. There were a couple choices. There's this missile, this rocket salvo, that just launches a barrage of unguided missiles. In a, you know, wherever you're aiming. Then of course there are guided missiles that you have to require. You know, you have to wait for the lock to come in, and I think it releases a handful of missiles at your target. So there's options. There's options in builds, and I'm really waiting to see. Well, I liked what I saw in the beta. You know, they gave us just enough. You know, 2 maps and that one Titan build, and several weapons to play around with. But I'm really waiting to see what, you know, the main course come out, you know, on the 11th, and really see everything that this game entails and that's involved in it. I want to see how. I'm not even sure how many maps there are in the game. I should check that. The map play, you know, the games they play, they're so fun to play. There's just such a great pace to them. Now you can see right here. I should wrap all this up. There'll be plenty more to discuss in the coming videos, but you can see right here, this was a really nice touch, I thought, in the end of the game, really just to bring closure to it. You know, the losing team, now we won that 250 to 238, but now at this point, what happens is, you know, the losing team has an opportunity to try and evac, you know, run to their dropship, which is just coming in now, to safety, you know, and they'll get bonus points if they're able to evac without dying. So I thought it was a nice way to bring closure to the end of the game, and of course we get bonus points for taking down that sucker, taking down that dropship before it can warp off into space, into outer space, and there she goes, you know. So no bonus points there. But anyway, I liked that. It was a nice little touch, you know. So there you go. There you have it. That was well, a pretty spectacular round for me. Now I'm trying to figure out, the entire time I was playing this, I was trying to figure out what constitutes a good round. I mean that's an above average round right there for me. I think if you're pulling in 9 or 10 pilot kills across one of these matches, I think that's probably good. You're probably doing, carrying your weight, doing your part, playing your role in the battle. If you can bring in, 2 or 3 Titan takedowns in the process as well, that's really solid. And a couple dozen minion kills, as you can see right there with me with 25, well, that's kind of standard as well. You should be bringing in 15 to 25 at least, depending on which weapon you're wielding. And if you can keep your deaths in check, as I did there, well, it really becomes a spectacular round. And that one was probably my best round I have recorded, and that's why I started with it. There's plenty of good content to come, though, guys, so be sure to check back. And if you're new here, think about subscribing. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, first of all. And if you did enjoy it, think about leaving a like. These things help me, help the channel, So if you enjoy the content, certainly do like or thumb up the video and show your support, So until next time, guys, hopefully I'll see you in the next Titanfall beta multiplayer gameplay video I release here on the channel. But until then, remember why it hurts. Later.